216, a link to the Task Randomizer podcast. I am your host, Fear Agent. Today on the show, we've got WillardJBradley. Had a really great conversation with Willard. Shoot, we could have gone easily 2 to 3 hours. It was a really fun conversation, and I'm excited for you guys to hear this one. It was a lot of fun to talk with Willard, and he's got a lot of history with the game, and honestly, just hearing his story outside of Rando as well was really interesting. So we'll get to that. This past week's 216 Weekly, we had Humbug and Hitman on the restream over on my channel, twitch.tv/fearagent_. We played Invrosia. It was a hell of a seed. I have links to the seed in the Discord as well if you want to give it a run. It was a doozy. I'll just say that. Don't want to give away what the dooziness was, but it was a doozy. So I'd recommend checking that out. That's what everyone's going to be playing this week in the league. Humbug won the restream, but hasn't told me what the mode is going to be. I think he said something with entrance, so maybe we'll be doing cross keys this Saturday. I'm not sure. Once I find out for sure, though, I will fill everyone in on the next episode this Thursday. Not really going to talk much Rando today. I kind of want to talk about a man named Kim Jung-ji. Kim Jung-ji is a South Korean illustrator, a real masterclass artist, legit a true great, someone that has elevated himself above everyone else. Just an amazing artist with a single brush pen and no layouts, no guides, no perspective grid, could draw the most elaborate and elegant, just thrilling pieces of work in a single session. A lot of times he'd just be working live and you'd be able to watch it on his Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. He would restream a lot of that stuff. It was incredible to watch. Just the amazing amount of work and the photorealism that he would get with just a single brush pen. Fantastic perspective and just so much imagination and liveliness in his illustrations. They're incredible to watch. I'd recommend checking out his YouTube or his Instagram or Twitter and watching some of these live sessions because they're amazing. As he would draw, the world would just appear because there was no layout. There was no sketch. There was no guides. It was almost like he was uncovering a window that was fogged up with just a fantastical world with just a single brush pen. He was literally one of our generation's greatest artists, just incredible. Kim Jung-ji died last week at the age of 47, only 6 years older than I am. He was out on a walk, I think in Paris, when he was out for a convention and had a heart attack and it took him. He looked at him, he looked fit and appeared to be healthy. From the outside, there was no signs that, anything was wrong, but his heart gave out and he was taken way too soon. When someone that young and that accomplished is gone that early, it really begins to put things into perspective. Tomorrow is not promised. And it's weird. Maybe this is something as I've gotten older and I start to hit middle age and, try to understand things a little bit better and get closer to death, and it changes my perspective. And I think about my own health, right? I'm a big dude. I haven't been taking the best care of myself. I like to think tomorrow I'll start exercising. Tomorrow I'll eat a little bit better. And then someone like Kim Jung-ji, gets taken early, and it reminds you that tomorrow is not promised. You really got to take advantage of every moment that you do have right now. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Live today to the fullest. And he reminds me now to be your best every single day. There's so many things that I think about doing tomorrow, but in reality, I have no promise of tomorrow. So you really got to take advantage of the time that you have now, and do the things that you're enjoying. It puts Rando a little bit in perspective. Am I enjoying my time playing Rando? Right now I am. And so I can take delight in enjoying that, not think that I'm wasting my time. But it also puts, a lot of that stuff that I talk about with Tilt into perspective as well. Trevor Noah recently announced that he'd be leaving The Daily Show, and a big fan of his and big fan of The Daily Show. And on YouTube, they have these behind the scenes segments where he'll ask the audience questions. And someone asked him why he left or why he's leaving and what he plans to do. I don't want to get into all of that, but he said something that kind of goes along the lines of what I'm feeling, dealing with the death of this amazing artist that I really admired. And he said, everyone talks about how time is money. But that's not true. Time is time. You cannot buy more time. So he's leaving the show to spend more time with his family and to be back in his country where his family is and do some connecting with people. And I super admire that. It's taking advantage of your opportunities when you get them today and not necessarily waiting for everything to align to be perfect. I know that I got to get healthier. I know I got to eat better. I know that I got to, exercise, not because it guarantees me tomorrow, but that it's going to help me get to tomorrow. I have kids and I want to see them grow old. I want to be a part of that. I need to do everything that I can to make sure that I'm not helping my time go away sooner. We're going a little bit deeper today than I do normally on these intros, but it's just been really on my mind. And these sort of things happen where someone passes away that is too young. They're gone too soon. And it reminds me, it's a harsh reminder that tomorrow's not promised and that I need to take advantage of the time that I have now. It's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this podcast. I love being able to connect people, talk to people and kind of get their stories and I don't know, just find out who they are. So I feel like the podcast has kind of helped me fulfill a lot of those feelings that I've been feeling. So I want to thank Kim Jung-ji for the art that he's produced and the inspiration that he's produced, and condolences to his family as well. Definitely be missed. Don't really know how to transition out of that, but I do want to get to what we have on the show today, and that's WillardJBradley. Willard's an awesome dude, been a part of the community for a long time, and we get into a lot of this history of the game. And we talk a lot about the GDQ that he was a part of, the one with Andy and Christos that got so many people involved in Rando or got them interested in Rando. We delve into that. We talk a lot about his personal history as an actor, and it's just a great conversation. And honestly, like I said in the beginning of the show, we could have gone another hour or two, and maybe for season 3, I expand the show. I don't know. Does everyone like the show at 1 hour? Is 1 hour good? I feel like it's good, but I get these conversations where I almost have to end them almost prematurely. So, well, I'll let you decide. Let me know what you think in the Discord. Should we keep the conversations going longer? And let's get to the conversation with Willard. Here we go. All right, Willard, I'm super excited to have you on the show. My introduction to Rando was the Andy Christos match from GDQ a few years back. And you happened to be on the couch there. So you were one of the first voices that I heard explaining what the hell was going on. So I'm super excited to have you here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's kind of start with your history. Where did you first hear about Randomizer? And also, you're one of the first people that does this for a living as far as streaming and playing this game goes. So
yeah, this is kind of my thing. It's kind of the thing that I do. Well, way back, it was 2016. Before even the first tournament, I was in a bit of a rut because I was trying to figure out. I had recently just gotten out of. I was switching games. I previously, before Link to the Past, I was a Minecraft streamer, a PvP Minecraft streamer. I usually joined a particular server that had VIP on and just, duke it out with other people in this kind of competitive mode where it's like a last man standing kind of thing. But I didn't like the direction that my stream was going. I didn't like the general audience for the most part because it was a lot younger than I was used to. There were a couple standouts that were great. Some people that still show up to my stream even today. But I was I need something different. I need to find something. So I was playing just random, more modern Nintendo games. And I think one day I was streaming just a vanilla playthrough of Link to the Past and Dying to Moldorn or something. And I remember someone popped into my chat and was just hey, you heard about the randomizer? And this person goes by the name of Hiei, who I think I've seen a lot in a lot of rando channels. And I didn't really know much about randomizers at all, and especially not the Link to the Past one. I think there was a YouTuber that had done a couple uploads of randomizer stuff. So I watched a couple minutes of it. And I was well, this is interesting. Let me check it out. So I started checking it out. I started streaming it. The early months were, kind of hazy. I still have my first ever streamed Link to the Past randomizer.
Oh, that's cool.
VOD. I think it took me, it was a basic, this was before open mode even existed. So it was more progressive weapons or whatever. So I think it took me a little over 4 hours to beat. I need to go back and rewatch it.
This is like early rando days, right?
Yeah,
like,
this was like before version 8, I think.
Right. Okay. So like all of the text was still there. All of the you're literally playing like standard, I guess, as we know it, right? Like there was
yeah.
It was different.
It was very, it's very different. Like to go, it'd be interesting to go and watch that video and just see how different it was and how basic it was. But yeah, what really like helped build up was the lead into the first main tournament where I started doing a lot of commentary and stuff. And that's kind of how I got my name out there. Was not only I made it to like, I think 8th place or 5th place or 4th, something like that. I got in the top 10 in that tournament, but I also did a lot of commentary and then it just kind of builded. It just kind of went from there.
Okay. So you were streaming. How long have you been streaming? If you were streaming Minecraft stuff, and honestly, I don't know anything about Minecraft. My kids play Minecraft. I didn't know there was a competitive aspect or nature of Minecraft, or that there can be, since I guess it's so many different things.
Yeah. I mean, it's like your basic, like the games are kind of like Fortnite or like, I don't know, Daisy, any of these kind of like, it puts you and a bunch of players in the same map and you have a set amount of time to farm up resources and get your weapons and stuff. And then if you run into other players and defeat them or kill them, then they're out. And then at a certain time period, it switches, like it warps everyone closer. And then there's like a final like battle and last man standing. So any of those kind of last man standing kind of games.
Yeah, battle royale sort of. Yeah,
battle royale stuff. Yeah, like Fortnite, PUBG.
When did you start doing that?
I think I streamed for the first time in like 2014, 2015. I remember trying to stream Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on my MacBook Pro using an old Elgato. I didn't go very well. It wasn't great, which is kind of why I stuck with Minecraft, because at least that functioned on my really bad laptop.
Sure.
But I did that for at least my first like 800 followers on Twitch. And I feel like this was when getting followers on Twitch was a little bit easier.
Sure. I mean, Twitch was relatively new back then, right? 2014. Had it been around for a little while there? I mean, I don't feel like it really blew up in popularity until a little bit later than that.
I don't remember what year it was that they switched over from Justin TV to Twitch.tv, but it was still really new. Like this is obviously before like affiliate existed.
Right.
Yeah, it was a different time back then, and it was exciting.
So young Willard, let's go even back further. What was young Willard playing? Were you just into Nintendo stuff as a kid?
Yeah, I grew up with Super Nintendo. Like we had an NES, but I was too young and really bad at all the games, so like I couldn't beat any of them. Sure. But my brother, who's a year older than me, him and I played through like tons of We really grew up on like Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and N64 games.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of Nintendo, a lot of Zelda. I think it wasn't until much later when we got our first. I mean, we had like a Sega Genesis, but we played like Pocahontas or suffered through Echo the Dolphin, but like didn't get you'd sit down and play Sonic and then you never play Sonic again because it's like games are too hard.
I feel like that's the story of Sega, right? Like Sega, it was because it was always like Sega growing up, Sega versus Nintendo. I remember Sega had that like Sega does what Nintendo don't. Do you remember?
What Nintendo don't? Yeah, I do remember that. Dumb
ad. But it did feel like in school there was like, oh, I'm Nintendo, and the other guy's like, no, I'm Sega and stuff. But whenever I played Sega, it was always like what you're talking about with like Echo the Dolphin, where it's like these games are just like stupid hard, like
hard, obscure, and like unforgiving. And I couldn't even tell you, like I haven't really played much Sega games since. And I never had like a Dreamcast or a Saturn.
Sure.
But yeah, eventually got like, into PlayStation games. I remember getting PlayStation 2 for Christmas for like Final Fantasy X and Kingdom Hearts. And then like the GTA games or something. And then later getting an Xbox 360 for Halo 3, Halo Reach. Those games were awesome. A lot of fun.
Sure. So how did you discover streaming? Were you watching YouTube stuff? Were you watching other Twitch stuff? Or how did you discover it and then decide like, hey, let me try this?
Well, I'd known about like Games Done Quick. So I watched some of their stuff and I was like, wow, that's really neat. And then during a summer, not long after I moved out to California, I got a paid internship working for a YouTube network.
Oh.
And so,
Okay.
my job was, when they weren't trying to force me to do cold calls and sales for whatever reason, was to manage a bunch of different YouTube channels and like just kind of talk to them and figure out what they're doing and stuff. And I don't even know how it went from there, but like I got a random DM or follow from a cute Pokemon streaming couple on Twitter and started chit-chatting with them, or like I watched their stream and they kind of inspired me to try it out because I didn't really think too much of it. I thought like Twitch was just for like, big events or stuff like that.
Right.
And so it's actually because of them that I even got like a little boosted start, because they sent over their following to like help me out when I started streaming. Like, I don't even remember. Might have been Minecraft, but it might have been just some random like Nintendo game or something. But that's kind of how it started. Like I really wanted to do YouTube because I liked video editing and I liked that stuff. And I did do a short series of videos of like time-lapse art videos set to set to overclock remix music. And then that transitioned into a couple of that, but it also was a game review. So like I did one for like Link's Awakening where, on one side of the screen, it had a time-lapse of artwork, graphic design stuff with some game feed. And I did like 4 of those videos. And I was like, wow, this is a lot of work. And I never did it again.
Yeah. I mean, video editing is fun, but it is definitely a lot of work and it takes a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to tell you to get a following and to try to get any sort of like monetization on your videos. It takes a lot of time. So how did those early Twitch days going? Were you growing a following pretty quickly? And did you feel like comfortable as like, this is what I want to do for a living? At
first it was kind of iffy. I remember the days of, where like I'd barely break 10 viewers or when I'd get 20 viewers and I'd get like nervous because I was like, oh man, look at all these people here. This is so I felt like if I kept going the Minecraft route, I probably would have kept building, but I didn't really care for the direction that my community was going. And there was a lot, compared to like playing retro games, there's just a lot more. I mean, there's still plenty of babies and trolls and, immature people, but there was tenfold in the Minecraft community because it's, generally younger people. So,
right. And it's a huge game too.
Yeah. And I think my breaking point following that game was this server that I was in, we had a whole like funny campaign to try and get me VIP on this server. So there was always a hashtag Willard for VIP. And then finally one of the server owners like was going to surprise me with a VIP and then like was going to host or raid my channel for a couple thousand people because the owners were all like really popular. And this was supposed to be such a really cool, great moment. But as soon as I got hit with this raid, I got DDoSed and it just shut my stream down. I got DDoSed and like follow botted for like 1,000 people or something, like 500 people. And it just kind of killed my entire interest in that community. I was like, well, this is horrible. This is not fun. And like, didn't get to have that great moment of me finally getting the VIP like I wanted. And then all of a sudden I'm like freaking out because like I know people like have gotten suspended or banned for follow botting. So I thought I was going to get in trouble. And it just really put a damper on the whole scenario. So I knew at that point that I needed to find something else. But along that entire time, I had no idea that I was going to ever be able to do this as a job full time. Yeah, that wasn't until much, much later.
So do you take a break after that happens when you decide like, I don't like the direction of my channel? Do you take a break or do you just like immediately start trying to find other stuff?
I kind of took a break because I had other work to do. I moved out to LA like in 2013 and couple years, I have a background in musical theater and acting. So I came out here to do acting stuff as well. Like it was kind of my main purpose of coming out here, other than just wanting to try something new. So when I was searching for something new to stream, I was doing taking acting classes and working as a background actor, which is like, you get hired to be, you call in and they're like, hey, have you worked on this TV show in the last week or so? And then you say, no, of course not. Like, all right, cool. Here's your times. Here's what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. We'll see you on set. So I was doing that like 3-4 times a week.
That's pretty cool. So you're one of those people that's like pretending to talk in the background as the actors come in to the bar or whatever. Yeah. That's cool. Did you enjoy doing that stuff or? It
was awesome. Like, there were definitely slow days, but like, one of the first gigs I got to work on was a commercial, or it was a skit, a YouTube skit for a channel called Rocket Jump.
Okay.
And they did like a series called like Video Game High School and a bunch of funny skits. I think the main guy from that was in like a Key and Peele skit later on. But it was like something I was aware of, something I was enjoying. And I ended up meeting like a buddy there. And then that introduced me to a whole group of people. And, it's cool when you can get jobs on really cool things or things that you care about. Like my favorite thing I ever got to be in was the series finale of How I Met Your Mother, which was a show that I loved. Yeah. You were just talking about, you're going to be in the background pretending to talk in a bar. It's literally what I did. I was in the bar.
Wow. That's awesome.
There's a scene like right towards the end of the episode where they're all together in the bar and one of them like turns around and talks to the booth behind him saying like, you guys like have no idea what's gone on here or something like that. Something kind of like emotional, inspiring. And he was talking to my booth. You can see me right there.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to go check that out.
I need to find that screenshot. They put me in a booth with another guy also wearing a blue plaid shirts, but I don't know. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care.
Sure. Yeah.
So, it was a pretty sweet gig. And I did it for like 4 years before I finally was like, you know what? Let's take a break from that.
Yeah.
And focus on streaming. This actually happened.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. I understand. Like, I imagine that wasn't your goal as far as acting goes, is to just be in the background. I imagine you wanted to do some other stuff as well. Were you doing like auditions and things like that to try to get your name out there? Or was that or did you just enjoy doing that kind of stuff?
I don't know. That's the thing is like I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like my background was doing like musical theater, so I'm used to being on a stage, not in front of a camera, and I definitely didn't try too hard out here. I was kind of pretty content with just doing the background stuff. And, paid pretty decently well, and I ended up getting union eligibility. And I, just dropped $3,000 and joined the union, and then all of a sudden you get, you have to pay union dues, but you get a lot of nice things, and you get like better pay and all that stuff. But I think benefits, I hit a point where I was like, benefits. I was like, I need a break. I was getting burned out. I think I had just too many days in a row of like showing up on set, sitting around doing literally nothing for 6 hours and then going home. And like they'd never use you or something, which is literally just you looking at your phone or going to the snack table. You still get paid, which is great. But, but
there's kind of like an emptiness to it, right? Like you're creative. You want to do something that you can take pride in. And if you're just sitting around, it's like, I could use my time better than that.
Exactly. Like I'm definitely the type that if I'm not interested in the project, I'm going to just do as little as I can because I still get paid anyway and then move on. But like there was a couple gigs that I did. It was for a YouTube series where they like grabbed some popular channels and then put them in this kind of survival horror thing with zombies. So like my shift would be like, okay, you need to go be a zombie at this outdoor desert theme park that we built from like midnight to 5 a.m. And I was like, okay, sweet, let's do it. So it was a lot more hands-on, which is a lot more interesting than just, you're in a coffee shop on Big Bang Theory and you just need to walk up to the counter, get your coffee and go sit down. All right, that's it. Thank you. Next scene.
Right. Let me ask you this, because I've never talked to a background artist or someone that's worked in the background stuff.
Sure.
Because you see them talking, right? Obviously, you can't be talking because you're not
Correct.
a part of the stuff. So when you're between takes, do you talk to the person that you're like maybe talking to and say like, what are we talking about? Like, how realistic do you make it? Or is it literally just like a miming situation where you're kind of going back and forth?
Most of the time you're just pantomiming. You're just moving your mouth, moving your hands. You know, you're pretending to eat food in front of you, but not actually. Like, you just trying to make it look as realistic as possible. Mm-hmm. So there's still the back and forth, like you move your mouth for a little bit and then they do, and then you're like, oh, so you know, it's kind of fun and creative trying to come up with this fake story that you're telling. And then usually between shots, if they're not telling us to be quiet, you know, or we'll chit chat a little bit, but it's usually pretty much just like get the job done and move on just to the next shot.
It until you make it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There were definitely days where I'd be on set with my friends, like we were all like with the same calling company, like a company that we pay to get us booked on stuff. So you'd show up and be like, yo, Drew's here. Yo, Andy's here. So then we would, of course, try and get paired together in the shot itself. And then it's, I don't know, it's kind of weird. Like on one hand, like pretending to talk with somebody you have no idea who they are feels a lot easier than pretending to talk with your friend who sit there in front of you, because you're just going to try and make each other laugh the whole time.
Right. Yeah. And you can't be distracting, right? Like that would be like the worst thing is if you like ruin a take. I imagine they would not be happy with that. But
no. I've seen it happen, of course, several times.
Sure. Yeah, that's got to be bad.
But it was a fun gig. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does sound like a good time. But I understand that like idea of wanting more, right? Not necessarily from acting, but just from the work that you're putting in for your time, right? Like your time is valuable, and you want to do something that you feel is valuable to you. So I can totally understand why you'd want to move into streaming. So after that, is that when you decide like, hey, let's try to give the streaming thing a go?
Yeah, I actually got hired by Speed Gaming right before, I think it was the fall 2018 tournament. Whichever one had like the first ever secondary tournament. I was doing volunteer work running the secondary, which is now known as the Challenge Cup. But the secondary tournament was like me, Rick, Sakura Tsubasa, Philion, a couple of us were working together on that. And then Feasel and Speed Gaming were like hiring a couple people to be more management stuff. So I was helping out running like restreams over on their channel and making sure races went off on time and everything functioned properly. So I was like, I really want to do, work on that while also working on my stream. So I kind of shifted focus to more Twitch stuff at that point. And just started streaming a lot, just streaming as much as I can. Don't remember if that was the summer where, maybe it was the next summer where I was just doing nothing but Zooters until like 3 a.m, which I wouldn't recommend. But like, I was doing enough that I can start like really thinking about like partner pushing and whatnot.
Sure,
is the worst thing ever.
It sounds awful. It just sounds awful, especially with like some of the restrictions of like, from what I've read and from what I've seen, like raids actually like hurt you in some way. And
yes,
I don't know if that's all true, but yeah, is that true? Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, I got after that summer of Zooter, where I would get, because I'm streaming late, usually I get rated like almost every night or every other night. I was like, cool, great, easy, 75 average viewers, good, done, send it in. I submitted, and then I didn't hear back from them like maybe 30 days or something. And then they got back to me and they're like, yeah, they denied me because I got rated too many times. So my numbers were not expected or accurate or whatever.
So
and
silly.
Boy, what a kick in the balls. Cause it's like, I can't stop people. Like I could stop people from rating me, but that kind of defeats the whole purpose of rating. So why am I being punished for, being somewhat known in communities that people would want to raid me? It was kind of dumb. And
it makes no sense because it's punishing you for the system that they put in place. Like, what's the point of raids if not to get more viewers to your channel? I don't know. It just seems, I understand there's ways, I guess you could like fudge the numbers a little bit, but I don't know. It just seems silly to punish people for that, but whatever, I guess.
It was. I mean, I think now if you get rated, people will be like, okay, now make sure you actually click on my channel, like the channel link, because then
I see.
you go from being labeled as a raider to being labeled as a viewer. I think that's how that works. I remember that being a big thing. Like people would have commands in their chat for when they got rated, just being like, hey, click the link if you want to be a real viewer. That way Twitch sees you for a real viewer instead of just a fake viewer, I guess.
So complicated.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
I never want to do the partner grinding. I'm thankful I never have to do it, and I don't envy anyone that has to do it. It was exhausting.
And also when you did the partner grind, things were a little bit different. I think when I first became affiliate, I feel like affiliate stuff was pretty new at the time, and you got like 5 emote slots and and now it's like as an affiliate, you get a ton of stuff. Partners, you get even more. But when you became partner, I think there was a little bit more of a benefit. I don't know if that stuff has changed. I know recently they've kind of announced some more changes to that.
It definitely feels like things are a little bit more balanced. I remember one of the big things I wanted with getting partnered, aside from just like emote slots, was always having quality options. Because I remember back then, because like when I was streaming Minecraft, back then, obviously affiliate didn't exist. That didn't exist until like I think the second time I applied, or even the third or something like that. There would just be random days where you get quality options and sometimes you wouldn't. So like every time you got it, you're like, oh, sweet, I did it. Chat, look, I did it. I got quality options. So that was a big, that emotes and, having the little check mark next to your name. It just makes you stand out so much.
For sure.
But it's definitely a lot. I don't know if it's a lot easier to get partner these days. I'm sure it is a lot easier to get partner these days than it was back when I was trying for it, or even especially back before I was even on Twitch trying to get partner.
Right.
There's a lot more like guidelines and more stepping stones, especially with affiliate now. I don't know if that necessarily means that people are getting partnered more these days or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's definitely more tangible, I think, these days.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like there's so many more people now on Twitch than there was when I started. So, I had the luxury of really especially joining like Link to the Past randomizer, because like aside from, speedrunners, wasn't really much going on that side of it. So, I definitely got a lot of, I got lucky that I was able to use, ride the waves of the Link to the Past randomizer until I got partnered. Like that's hard to do these days. Like,
sure.
I don't know, every now and then I'll go and check like the Link to the Past directory on Twitch, and I'm like, I'll see names of people stream, and I'm like, why do they not have more viewers? I know them there to be like regular people that I race all the time on ladder and stuff, and I'm like, why is no one watching? Like, what the heck, man? That makes no sense.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's tough, I'm sure.
Let's kind of get back to Link to the Past, because I'm really curious about that time, because it was all pre my time. I didn't join the community until like around 2018. But when you start, is racing a thing? Is the community really small? Kind of give me an idea of what it's like when you first join the community. Well,
I was there when they first created the Discord for it.
Okay.
So back then it was all, I didn't really use Skype, but it was like TeamSpeak.
TeamSpeak, yeah.
And
wow.
I feel like right from the get-go, like as soon as version 8 hit, we started racing on SRL. Like it was pretty quick, because like randomizers, especially Link to the Past randomizer, are just made for racing.
Right.
And a lot of the early community was built up by speedrunners of Link to the Past with already this like beat game fast mindset. So like you go back onto the SRL page and go look back at like some of the first races. It's all people with like, good times. People that have played the game for years. So, it wasn't too long before all of a sudden it was like, let's start playing in our first tournament and stuff like that. So
for you, did that sort of all of a sudden become like my game? Like did Rando become like, this is what I'm going to stream the most of? Because obviously you do more than that now. And you talked about Zooter and some of the other stuff. And if you come to your stream, you'll be playing lots of different games. But I would say Rando or Link to the Past is probably your main. Did it kind of become that quickly when you discovered Rando?
Yeah, I'd say so. Like, I think I was still doing occasional like casual playthroughs of other games at the time. But, you know, because that was the first time I ever played a randomizer, and I was like, wow, imagine getting to play one of your favorite games of all time for the first time again and again and again and again. And I was addicted. Like, it's such an addicting game or concept. So I knew right away that like, this is what I want to do for a while. And, you know, it's a lot easier to be like, okay, I'm going to keep doing this when you see the numbers start showing up. And you're like, okay,
right.
I see you down there, number. I see you, view count. Looking pretty good down there.
And you're having a good time, right? Because the game is a really fun game to play as well. At times, it can be awful at times as well.
Oh, gosh. We don't need to talk about awful seeds.
Right. So where does GDQ, when do you become a part of that famous, you know, it really was a big moment, I feel like, in Rando, the Andy Christos match with, I think it was you and Vitorp and maybe Patty on the couch.
Patty,
I can't remember. Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was me, Vitorp, and Patty.
Yeah, and it became, I mean, that was like, hello world, here's Rando. And, you know, there was a huge influx of runners at that point. So how did that kind of come about? How did you get on the couch, and how big of a part did you play in that?
I mean, I still am just like completely shocked and blessed that these like big names like Andy or Christos or Patty or like even I Ate Your Pie, like all these people that got me into I Ate Your Pie, who's fantastic. He's like one of the first person that I subbed to on Twitch, was definitely an inspiration as well getting into it. And like all these people like kind of helped help me push and build my channel by like constantly shouting me out and stuff. So but at the same time, I was completely blindsided when Christos reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to be on the couch for GDQ? And this is the first time I'd ever been. That was even the first time I ever been to a GDQ. I'd never been to one before. So like to get to go to my first GDQ and be on the couch for one of the finale like block games is like terrifying, but super exciting. So I still don't really know exactly what I did to deserve it, other than I
just be a part of the community,
be part of the community and being halfway decent at commentary, I guess. But I guess I did something right to get the opportunity. And going into it, it's like, how do you showcase a randomizer? Because, like, you know, you do commentary, and after a while, like, everything is second nature. You just assume everyone knows everything. But we're sitting on the couch trying, like, I think me or Patty were, like, explaining what a fake flipper was. It's like, these are such standard things that everybody that watches the tourney races would know. But, like, to a general audience, like, you have to explain stuff. So it was definitely a challenge.
Were you nervous on the couch? I mean, that's you know that there's 100,000 plus people watching, right? There's a lot of people watching, and you know, Andy and Christos didn't have a mic on them, obviously, because they're racing. So it was all on the three of you to really carry it. And I thought you guys did a great job, by the way. I
rehearsed the intro so many times before I got up there because I was nervous being the one to start things off, and oh man! But once it started, it was easy. Like, it just felt like doing normal commentary. It just we weren't actually on a couch because of the way that it was set up. We were backstage in a booth, with, like, cameras on us and stuff. So we had like a table in front of us, and I don't know if we had. And then and Philion and In the Name of DT were running the tracker next nearby. So shout out to them for that. And it was just such a really cool experience. And it's funny when I hear people like, I remember my first time watching Rando was on GDQ, and I remember you doing commentary. You did great. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I keep forgetting that happened.
No, it's awesome because, again, like, a huge influx of players came from that. Like, it was my introduction to what Rando was. I grew up loving Link to the Past or whatever, but I had no idea there was a randomizer. And then I see what I thought was, you know, some unbelievable gameplay. They're playing without sword. I think it was a swordless run. Like, what the hell is? And then I saw Andy hover. I was like, what the hell? Link is hovering.
You can do that.
I would never be able to. I would never be able to do that. Turns out, you know, it's not as hard as it seems, but it was just such like a mind blowing experience for me, and I imagine so many other people. And so to pull that off and to have what it was, I think is such a huge moment for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure that's what led into the big 512 tournament I think that was the spring 2018 tournament. Which,
right. Well, let's get to it. You're the admin you were one of the admins for one of the biggest tournaments. Another very famous moment. There's like moments in time in the rando history of like the GDQ and the 512 and the council creation, all this other stuff. Like, you can think of like different moments, and the 512 is a big one. I didn't participate, but that again kind of got me watching Link to the Past and seeing people race it and just thinking, holy there's so many people playing this game. 512 motherfuckers are nuts. Playing this game. And it wasn't until later that I learned the difficulty of pulling that off. So I don't know. You were one of the admins, right?
Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So kind of tell me about the process of that. Like the idea of like, hey, let's try to get as many people. And then like, I think you guys had tons of challenge problems and stuff. I don't know. You kind of fill me in.
Well, okay. So, we were like, let's ride this hype of the GDQ thing and let's host a Swiss tournament. And I feel like I remember it hitting 128 cap right away. I remember Andy had to buy like challenge premium just to raise the cap beyond 256.
Wow.
And I challenge. Such a sour note. We had so many people in that tournament that after every week, Andy and I would pretty much sit down at the end of the week and like just double check to make sure everyone's races were entered accordingly. And then you hit, the button that finishes that week and moves on to the next one. But every time you do, it just hangs forever. And I would have to get on like a text call or text chat with a challenge admin and be like, yo dog, make your stuff work, please. And one of the times or two of the times we got Brian from Challenge. That kind of became a bit of a meme. Like, oh, shout outs to Brian, who helped us keep the tournament alive. But we had such a huge issue with Challenge that by the end of it, they actually refunded Andy's purchase because of how bad it ran.
Wow.
So yeah, if you ever want to use, it might be better these days. I don't know how much they've updated Challenge, but don't do a 512 Swiss tourney. Don't do it. Like, it's nuts to think about, just because there were so many like names of people that have never played the game ever again since. But like, it was so cool. Like, oh, I recognize your name. You're super popular. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I just remember watching a lot of those races because it was on Speed Gaming and the Rando channel as well at like almost 24/7 because there were so many races going on. And
there were so many. Much. Oh my gosh. that was nuts how many there were, because they were constantly pinging for like, hey, we need we need someone to do some commentary.
So how did the tournament go though, as far as like players and other than Challenge? Do you felt like it went okay, or I don't know, never again?
I mean, I felt like, because we had already had 2 tournaments already done, and I don't think I did admin on the first 2, but so we knew what we were doing for the most part, so it wasn't that bad. But the thing with bringing in 512 people, and like where 75% of them are newish, is that you're going to get a lot of. We did have some issues with potential cheaters, which was fun to deal with.
Yep.
Never forget the famous Act the Boker video.
Right.
Oh gosh. So not only are you trying to run this big tournament where you have a lot of people that are completely new to racing in general. I think we had to DQ one person because they didn't realize that you're not allowed to be in the restream chat chit-chatting.
Oh, jeez.
We had to DQ someone else because they streamed their entire race without video feed. And even though they like won dramatically just because of a skill difference, we had to, and we couldn't let them re-race because it was Swiss. Like, you have to be done within a week so that everyone can move on. We can't hold up just because of one race. So like, we couldn't do a re-race of that. But I mean, other than just like all the back end work of making sure each week was recorded correctly and making sure everybody was set up and everything was good to go, like it wasn't the worst thing ever, but I definitely wouldn't ever want to do a tourney of that size ever again, or at least in a Swiss format. I don't think Swiss works for that.
Right.
for that.
Not for
that
512
size.
people. No,
No,
that's too many. Yeah. I mean, even with the cross keys tournament, that was 180. I feel like that's pushing it for the Swiss too, even.
Yeah. That went really well. That ran surprisingly well. So for Swiss, I think
it's close though,
anything,
especially with like the cutoff.
Yeah. I think anything above like 256 is definitely pushing it. I'd say anything above 200 is like ridiculous. Gosh, what else was there that went on during that tournament? I don't know. I think there was also, I don't know if that was the standard hard tournament.
No, that was, I think that was the introduction to standard and randomized weapons, right? Like
standard randomized weapon. I remember that. That also got a lot of complaints. I remember somebody even just rage quit the entire community because of standard randomized weapon. They're like, this is stupid as hell. I'm leaving. And then I never saw them again. They just bailed.
Yeah. I think it's an awesome addition. I mean, it's rarely ever played anymore. I feel like if anyone plays standard, it's usually Kaz Boots, but I think standard randomized weapons is a lot of fun. I thought it was a cool introduction to the game.
Yeah, it definitely challenged you in a way you weren't prepared for. You know, a lot of people definitely took some time to prepare like the bomb strats for Hyrule Castle or just magic management when you're sitting with Berna or something. Like I think the bomb strat was usually the toughest, but everything else is pretty straightforward. And then, when you start with a weapon that is also a progression weapon, like it definitely alters your early game routing. Like you get a starting bow.
Right.
Like, of course, you're going to go to Eastern regardless of whatever it is.
Right.
So it was it's definitely interesting of a mode for sure.
So we talked about you as like an admin and a commentator, but you're also really good at the game. So were you playing in this tournament as well?
I was. What did I get? I got control. I have also like very laid out, because challenge stinks. I started making spreadsheet docs of every tournament and every league tournament, every league season. That just has like everything listed out as like in a Google Excel sheet, which has been a lot of fun as well. I got 17th place in that tournament. Out of 512, I got 17th.
Pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Did you attempt to start doing like speed runs too at this point, or when did kind of your NMG runs start happening?
I think it was actually earlier that year. There was an NMG tournament that was going on, and I remember me and Emo Saru, the creator of Emo Tracker, were kind of duking it out, trying to see who got a better PB. Because, the better your PB was going into the tourney, the better your grouping was. So I think I gotten down to like a mid 130 or something, or maybe a 131 before the tourney started. And so I have a little bit of experience running NMG. Actually, recently I had a incentive to do an NMG stream, and I got like a mid 130 on my first attempt. Second attempt, I died to blind, so I reset, and then third attempt, I got my 129.37. So
yeah, that was awesome.
I
saw that one. Yeah,
I was like, I haven't played NMG in over a year, but let's just knock this out real quick. And it's just one of those things where it's like, well, as long as you're playing the game, you're probably getting better at the game in general. So you can definitely utilize those skills. So
I didn't realize that 512 required an NMG run to help qualify, like put you into groups. Is that what you guys did?
No, this is for an NMG tournament before the 512.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. I see that. Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. I thought that was for rando.
No, that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah.
This was open to anybody. Like literally anyone would join. I don't even think there was any seeding involved at all in the Swiss stage. So you just
random. Yeah.
You just raced who you got, and then you went from there. So, and that was another one where I barely scraped out of the Swiss stage and made it into brackets. And funny enough, the previous tournament I didn't even make brackets, but it was a much smaller. It was like a 16-person bracket, so it was a little bit tougher to get out of it. But yeah, I mean, my tourney performances has kind of gone downhill, but I'll never forget my bronze boy status in the 2018 fall tournament. So I'm satisfied. It's winning a randomizer tournament is impossible.
Hard. It's so hard. Yeah.
Getting top 3 in that tournament was great. And that was the tournament where you basically, well, we had a 15 race group stage.
Yeah, that was awful.
Nuts.
That was awful because you had to race 15 races regardless of if you're in or out. And it was so like demoralizing. You'd be like, you'd go like, well, for me, I was really new. It was my first tournament and I was like 0-5 and like, oh, I'm done. But guess what? You still have 10 more races to do. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. It was, I had fun because it was my first experience. But if as someone someone that's been around, there's no way I'd want to do that again.
It was the first tournament where they offered such wild options for racing. So that was the tournament where I made my opponents all do swordless. That was my bread and butter was swordless.
Known as Willard once swordless. Yeah.
Expert swordless, just got to practice those 3 heart blind fights. I think the funniest thing about that is I did my 15 races and then round 1 of brackets, I end up racing off against the second place person from my group. Just immediately get to race Mac and X some more, which was great because he's a homie. So
sure,
that was fun.
So when do you move away from sort of like the admin and kind of, like the speed gaming stuff? When do you kind of become more of just focused on your channel and less on the admin side of things?
I think I did. I don't even exactly remember what years I was doing the speed gaming stuff. Actually, it doesn't matter. I think I only did that for like maybe a year, and then I was like, I feel like this is cutting into my streaming time. So let me step away from this so I can focus more on streaming. And the 512 was the last tournament that I adminned. I learned my lesson.
Yeah,
I got my experience in. Yeah, I was good.
Sure. And at this time, are you now partner? Are you now partner in full-time streaming? And is this now kind of your day job?
No.
Okay.
When did I, was it fall 2018? I don't have all these numbers next to me here.
Sure. I don't need, you're not under oath, so I don't need exact dates, but just kind of general, like
it was definitely roughly, I think it was 2018. Yeah. I think it was fall 2018. Where, I, especially with the 15 group races and doing a bunch of commentary and getting bronze, like those were some shining moments that definitely helped. And I remember when I got the email, because I did maybe cry a little bit because it was so so relieving knowing that I have the check mark and I don't have to do the stupid partner grind. Because like the thing about it is like all of a sudden now I can play whatever I want without being punished. Really, like of course it's still like something I have to think about. Like, oh man, I can't play whatever the heck I want. Because this is my job, so I need to play stuff that I know people will watch. But it was a big sigh of relief, and it's been fun as well. Like branching out and trying out so many other randomizers. Like I really love the Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 randos. They kick my butt, but they're so much fun. Recently, I was getting into the Mystic Quest rando. There's a new one that came out earlier this year, and I found out about it from their most recent tournament. And I was like, man, if I'd known about this a week earlier, I probably would have joined because it just seems so chill.
Sure.
So it's fun, like trying out all the different randomizers. But, I always keep coming back to Link to the Past because it is, in my opinion, still the best randomizer.
It is. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. So you end up joining the league in 2019, I think, for the second season. I don't think you guys played the first season, right?
No, I didn't know it existed for season 1. Sure. I had no idea.
I mean, most people didn't. I mean, we kind of created it in a vacuum or whatever, but you joined and that was the start of the WJ. I think it was WJPTBB was the first season you guys joined. And that was with you and JP, Brewers fan JP, who's been your partner since the beginning. Then JTB was your third though. Was it that year and the next year?
Just that year.
Was it just that 1 year? Okay. And then you guys got in the name of DT as your partner for the next few years.
Yeah.
Experience with the league. Tell me about that.
I love it. It's great. I'm trying not to stress out about it because I definitely, this for the 3 years we've been in league, we've gone 10-4 in the regular season and then made it to the second round of playoffs 3 years in a row. Like we're very consistent, which is ridiculous when you're up against, a different fleet of enemies and, switching teammates as well. And, different modes coming out and stuff. So, we got some pretty big shoes to fill for ourselves, but I love the whole team aspect of it. I've seen how the teams shape up, who's moved over to which team, which teams are comprised of 3 different people from 3 completely different teams. And like I said, like I run the website's fantastic. I also enjoy keeping track of like a bunch of stats and keeping track of all the teams myself, and just looking at all pretty colors. It's great. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But so you've been 10-4 all 3 seasons, season 2, 3, and 4. You were 10-4 each year. That's crazy to have the same record every year. That's an awesome record too, by the way.
It's nuts. Like last year we had a chance of going 11-3, but we lost our second to last race. It was the co-op race, the co-op enemizer with boots. I think we lost that one by like 10 seconds because I remember going back and screenshotting it, but I got to Ganon first out of everyone else, but I was doing Master Sword Silvers, and I went for a cheeky setup where you kind of like, you're right underneath Ganon as he's right kind of near the bottom. He's like a little bit up, and like you do the spin and you hold away so you don't fall down. And then as I'm going up to shoot a silver arrow, I just die instantly. And I'm like, oh no. And I went back and looked, and I can see like step by step, frame by frame, like there's me with an arrow sticking out, like about to hit Ganon. And then there's me dead.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like panic flubbed a little bit on the refight. And then I'm sitting there, sword up in the air. And then like I finish. And then all of a sudden 2C and Nobly finish. And JP's still going. I'm like, that's the worst.
Yeah, it is the worst. Yeah, because I'm looking at the results. You finished 123.12. Obscure finished 123.12, and then Nobly finished 123.13. Oh, that's like, killer.
It's just so nuts how that happens. Like how close in like a long race that can be. Like I mean, for instance, when I was restreaming and commentating your last round match of the Crosskeys tournament, like after 2+ hours, how you can end up tying with your opponent in a Crosskeys is just nuts.
Right.
Like
nuts. Yep.
What are the odds of that? It's crazy. So
it is. It's what makes the game great and awful at the same time.
Yeah. It's great. Like when you're on the winning side of it, you're like, oh, thank God. Because if I was on the losing side, I'd be sad for the rest of the day.
Right.
Which is something I'm working on, not being so sad about losing.
I don't think it will ever go away, no matter how much you work on it.
No.
But so season 2, your first season, you guys lost in the finals to Team Kappa.
Yeah.
So that was an exciting one. Yeah.
Wasn't that a reverse 3-0?
It was. JTB beat Gamma game 1. JP beat 1UP game 2, and then I beat you and JTB in games 3 and 4. And you and Gamma had a hell of a match too.
I remember in the regular season, my win against Gamma because I did a really stupid GT route, and I remember.
Right.
I feel like I remember you were being mad about that. You're like, who does that?
You went full right. I couldn't believe it. You went Hope Room to Compass Room to Armos Knife. I couldn't
full
believe
right.
it.
Sometimes you just got to go for the stupid place.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget back in that 2018 fall tournament where I was down. I was about to get 3-0'd by Korek in the bronze match when, or maybe I think it was game 4 when I pulled off a tile room gamble that won me the race and set up a game 5. It's so stupid. Like it's not something I ever go for. So
sure.
The fact that I went for it and it worked is just kind of like it's nutty. Just as wild as like 2 people tying in a Crosskeys race.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It just shows you, one, how good you and your team are, right? Like you guys went 5 games. That first one, you look the next season, you guys are in the division finals against Shack Tool's digging game. You go 5 games there too. So it's literally inches.
We're so close.
Yeah, it is.
And then, last season we went 3-1 against the Spoilers, but it's so tough. It's so tough.
It is. And everyone's getting really good at the game too.
I know, it's not fair. Everyone needs to slow down. Right. Like that's the thing about this rando is like, I feel like a lot of players will get to a point where they feel like they can't progress anymore. Like, obviously I can always spend time doing like breaking down rooms and like, grinding out all the tiniest little things so I can be like a execution expert like Error or Andy or Dante. That's a scary team. I'm glad they're not in my division. Right. But like, at the end of the day, like I could still lose to literally anybody if the rando deems it necessary, which is both what's so great about the game and what's so horrible about the game. Like, it's super inviting to know that, like, man, if I start playing rando and I play for like a couple weeks, I start doing my races, I could just make some nutty plays and win, or at least place really high. But for us that's been here for a long time, it's like, it could be really frustrating.
Like, sure can. Yep.
What am I doing with my life? What's the point of all this execution when, my opponent just like makes a really stupid gamble that pays off, but that's just a part of it. And that's why you really have to just kind of not stress it. It's a randomizer, there's still, execution plays a big part, and, execution will also make up for plays that you make that don't work or bad luck. But at the end of the day, it's still just a lot of luck.
Totally. Yeah. Someone goes full right on GT and it
Someone goes full right.
And then you go Tauru, it works out. Most of the time it doesn't, but it does.
So most of the time you should be laughed out of the room.
Sure, totally. What are expectations for season 5 for WJT? Gosh, I always get it wrong. WJPDTB.
Well, obviously, if we can tie our previous records, that's always a plus, and I think just making playoffs is always ideal. And, we're excited this season because out of all the players in our division, we've only ever raced one of them in a previous season. That's T-Stu, previously from the Double Dippers.
Right.
So it's kind of nice getting a whole new slew of players to duke it out against, like Missing Playoffs, formerly Spherefinity, they've been around forever. So it's fun to race, go up against them. And I think we're racing in the co-op Retrance week, I'm pretty sure,
right,
which is going to be a beast of its own. I'm hoping to get some revenge on P-Train, who knocked me out of a previous main tournament. But it's tough. Like there's so many good players in the Invitational, especially.
Sure.
And even in the Open League, there's really good players that could definitely be in the Invitational.
For sure.
So, making playoffs, making top 4 is doable. But at the same time, it's rando. So, you never really know what to expect.
It's rando, but you get to do it with your friends. I think that's the kind of like the big thing about the league, right? Is you win with your friends and you get to lose with your friends, which makes it a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it of course feels bad when you lose your solo matches, because then it's like, oh man, I'm letting my team down. But
yeah,
I love the co-op weeks. They're my favorite. So, and JP and I are racing our next match Saturday. So,
oh, cool.
That should be fun.
So you've been around from basically the beginning. What's your perspective on where rando is today compared to where it was when you first got here? Do you think we're in a good place? Do you think it's still growing? Do you think there's...
I think we're in a great place. Because you know how when sometimes things get popularity, things get really, things get messy, or things kind of like diminish, or like if things get too big, the community kind of gets a little toxic sometimes. Not to say that we haven't had those moments in the community, especially,
there's no community in the world that you can be in that there won't be toxicity. It just happens. But I think we've been able to manage it here pretty well. I
agree. I think we've been able to avoid the worst of it. I think we're in a good spot. I was kind of shocked to see that we didn't max out for the league this season on teams for Open League. But at the same time, there's so many other, there's a lot of good randos out there. And I think, honestly, how many teams you guys got for Open this season?
I have no idea. I'm not part of the league anymore, so I don't know.
64? Oh, you're not? Oh, right.
No, yeah.
I think we're good. I think we're doing great. I mean, we started from very little, and the community has blown up, and it's blown up in a good way, in a good direction.
Sure. I do think what played into the league having less people is just the amount of tournaments that are there is now. Like, if you think back to when you started, there was like one main tournament, and then it was like 2 main tournaments, and then the main tournament in the league. And now there's 100 tournaments that are constantly going on. And
I'm only doing like a quarter of them because it gets a little too much after a while. But yeah, I can see that being it.
It's hard to do it all.
The cross keys tourney still going on. There's some weird meme tournament with like true pot hunt or something going on. There's
the avian art. Yep.
Casual boots, 80 keys.
Yeah. And that's coming off of the casual boots tournament that just wrapped up. And then there's the ladder tournament invitational.
Tournament. There's SG Live.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a very good reason why, there's a lot going on. And it's a good thing to have that many tournaments because, there's so many compared to when we first started. Oh, like when Rando first started, like there's so many more flavors to the game now.
Yes.
You know, it's not just here's Sprite and here's 7-Up. Now it's like, here's Squirt, here's some Fresca. Those Coke machines where you can add all the different flavors together. That's it right there. Get yourself a $5 Moe's burrito and get you some drink from there. And it's great because you can really find what you enjoy. And, when tourney comes around, it's like, this tournament offers Inverosia or something. You're like, I don't want to play that week. So other people can do it. It's great. It's fantastic. I've definitely figured out what I enjoy the most about the game, and what modes I prefer to play. So I'll tend to go for that. I love me some Door Rando. Like Door Rando's so fun because it's like playing. It's what I like about Z1 Rando with the dungeon shapes, where the dungeons aren't vanilla in shape. So you don't really know what you're getting into until you get in there. Right. And sometimes you can get through the dungeon without needing the required items that you would normally need to get through there. And it's fascinating. It's entertaining. Right.
Just a bigger puzzle. Instead of 1,000-piece puzzle, you're doing like a 5,000-piece puzzle trying to.
Exactly.
And some of the pieces are upside down. You got to really figure it out. Man, we've hit the hour mark, and I still have like a ton of questions, but I want to ask you, but I'm going to finish it up with this, and that's the one that I do with everyone, and it's about tilt. I talk a lot on the show about tilt and how it affects me and how I try to better myself, both through counseling and then just trying to handle it in a way that's better for myself mentally. So I like to get people's perspective on your way of handling tilt, whether it's in the middle of a race or at the end of a race, or even if it doesn't apply to Rando. Like, what is your approach to tilt, and how do you handle it?
Well, if I'm like in a race and I make a big play and it doesn't work, I have such a horrible habit of being like, well, I lose unless I do something equally as stupid. So let's go for the next dumbest play. And then it just keeps building onto itself. And then you end up losing by 20 minutes anyway. Yeah. So, and then it's just like, man, if I had just done the smart thing instead of the dumb thing, if I didn't get tilt, I don't know if I'd call it tilt, but there are definitely moments in race where I'm like, I have to find that composure to not just go make the next dumb play. I don't think rarely do I get frustrated enough in the game that it causes me to like make mistakes. But a lot of the times it does tend to lead me down a rabbit hole of just gambles that don't work out. As for like post game tilt, I'm assuming like, oh no, I just lost a race by 30 seconds. How do I deal with this? Yeah, I'm still working on that. It's definitely a thing where, I just got knocked out of the tournament because I decided to check left side swamp for a sword while I was in sword go mode, and it just lost me $300 in SG Life last year. It definitely weighs on you for a while because you're like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? Yeah. But I've certainly had days completely like that race I was talking about earlier, the league race, the co-op race that JP and I lost by like 10 seconds. Like, and it was because I died to Ganon. Obviously there's a bunch of other things that could have happened that would have swayed it in our favor, but the very tangible, you died to Ganon and lost 2 minutes. It's hard to put that beside you and just be like, anyway, on to the next one, especially when you're not playing in the next round or in the next match. Because I think that was game one, but I definitely am trying to get better at just being like, it's just a game. It's fine. This doesn't affect your life. There's always the next tournament. And usually a lot of the times I'll put it away. I can deal with it because I'm usually just hopping right into the next ladder race or the next tournament race. I don't have time to sulk for too long. Sure. Yeah. But it's definitely something I'm still working on. And it's definitely something hard because for me, especially, I care and it's my job. So it's like, totally. It sucks when like you lose a race and it's like, but this is my job. I'm supposed to be good at this game. I'm supposed to, this is what I do.
Right.
So like,
right.
you know, I can't let it get to me. I just have to laugh it off and move on. But you know, it can be pretty hard. Sure. I feel like I'm getting better.
Yeah, laughing it off and moving on is the goal, right? Now, do we do it all the time? Probably not. And that's kind of, you know, my journey as well. It's like for so long I would lose, be mad that I lost, and then mad that I was mad that I lost. So like compounds itself. You know what I mean? Like, why am I so mad? And then it just ruins my day. And I've kind of turned that knob a little bit where I'm like, oh, it's okay to be mad because you care and you put yourself into it. So be mad and then laugh it off in, you know, 10,
and then laugh it off
minutes.
And then
yeah.
It's kind of like I used to be like really big into college basketball because I went to a college basketball school in Kentucky. For college, I went to the University of Kentucky, and
that's a big one. That's a big college basketball school.
Big basketball school. There was a 2 back-to-back Final Fours in their big championship or their big tournament where they went up against my other team, University of Wisconsin, because that's where I born and raised in Wisconsin, where they both knocked each other out of the tournament and then lost in the championship. And, you know, talk about being mad about something that's completely out of your control. Sometimes that's how rando goes. Sometimes it's completely out of your control, whether you win or lose a race, because sometimes rando going to rando. Totally. And I would let those basketball games completely ruin my day. And I would just be mad the rest of the day. And same with rando. I would just be mad the rest of the day. So it's definitely those moments where I have to be like, don't be mad. You can be mad. But, you know, just load up another game or just keep going. Like, don't sign off here because then you're just going to sulk for the rest of the night and do nothing. You're going to do that anyway. So, you know, sometimes you really just have to push yourself to be like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day because it's just a video game.
Yeah, totally. Great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for doing the show, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was awesome hearing your story.
I feel like we could talk for like another hour if we really wanted to.
That's how the podcast goes.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Like, I really appreciate it. This was a good time.
Huge shout outs for Willard for coming on the show. I really love getting to know people better than I do when you watch them on stream or, you know, read their messages on Discord or have some, you know, like some of those conversations on social media. Really hearing his story just, I don't know, really makes me appreciate who he is even more and really makes me root for Willard. So again, huge shout outs to Willard for coming on the show. I really hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. We'll be back this Thursday with Zero Rush, who again, I get to the hour mark and I feel like we could keep going. Like, I feel like we barely just covered enough. So a really great conversation with Zero Rush. That's coming this Thursday. Someone, again, that's been around for a really long time and has a different perspective than a lot of people that have been on the show. So yeah, check that out this Thursday. And then next Monday, we'll be back for the final episode of season 2. We wrap everything up. 216 Weekly this Saturday. Again, I don't know what the mode is yet. Believe it will be entrance, probably just cross keys would be my guess, but we'll find out on Thursday. Or just bug humbug in the Discord. Speaking of the Discord, you can find the link to the Discord on our website, 216pod.com. You can also subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. Would really appreciate that. The numbers actually have been going up the last couple of weeks, so that's pretty cool. Really appreciate you all. Again, I know it was a little deeper in the beginning of the show, and that's not what the show is every week, but I'm just really feeling a lot of emotional stuff right now, and I'm thankful that this podcast allows me to talk about it and share someone's story like Willard or Kim Jung-ji. I'm just really happy and thankful for what the podcast is and it's allowed me to do. I'm really hoping to spread, you know, positivity through the community. And even if it's not, it's bringing positivity to me. So there's that. Really appreciate you all. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you on Thursday.